Now we are talking about a remedy, predominantly skin problems, of course, but there's a great mental aspect in this remedy. So before I go into the details of the remedy, I'd like to narrate you a small incidents which happened in my life. Now, how it started while I was doing my post graduation in Switzerland in Lucas Clinic. So I was staying in an apartment next to the clinic. So my neighbor was an American girl, a very good looking girl, of course, called Sherry. Now the Sherry and myself, because we could share English, because she was an American and I am an Indian. Of course, I knew German, but it was again English was my sort of a second mother tongue, because I could speak English much better. So we could share one platform, and when we used to move around, we used to have uh, one at least twice a week. We used to have food in each other's apartment. I used to cook some Kolhapuri food, and she used to have make some American omelets and all that Mexican omelets. So we used to share that few good times with her. Now one day she said that she's going to a friend's place for a haircut. I never knew that she could give a haircut because I had taken my haircut when I left from India, and my hair had also grown because the haircut there was too expensive for me. Those days in India, you could have a haircut for 75 paisa or 1 rupee. That time the haircut in Switzerland was say 125 rupees. So that was the price of the haircut. So I decided not to take one. So when she said that she's going to a friend's place for a haircut and would I like to accompany, so I had nothing to do in the evening. So she had a car, so we went to the friend's place. Now this friend was almost, I mean, more than 60 years old lady, but she was huge. Huge bole to I consider myself fat, but she was at least twice my size, and she was a very lively person. Her name was Carmen Pirito. Now, this Carmen Pirito, she was very fond of treating guests, and she was an excellent cook. So she asked, "What would you like to have for dinner?" I said, "Whatever you are good at." And the kitchen was so small; it's a kitchenette. But she moved in that kitchen so fast that within 10-15 minutes, she had made some 3-4 dishes, homemade food, and it was mind blowing. Anyway, so here Carmen Pirito told me that she was having a haircut because her mother had died in California. So she had to go and meet her mother in California, and she had to say goodbye to her mother's dead body. So Carmen was telling Sherry that Sherry, my mother has seen me as a very beautiful girl, and see that you give me such a haircut that when I last meet my mother, she should see that I'm still her pretty, charming daughter. Remember, my dear friends, she was an old lady, more than 60 years old, and she wanted to look charming. She said that my last visit to my mother, though she is dead, but her soul may be there somewhere, and the soul shouldn't feel bad that her daughter is looking bad. So these are the sentimental sentiments a person carries. So she had gone for a last rites to California, and she said this. Then she said, told me that she has got some skin problems. I said, what type of skin problem? She said that because she was huge, as I told you, she was twice as big, twice bigger than me. If I am this much, she was this much. I mean, huge. So she told me, Carmen told me that she has some skin problems in between the folds of the skin, that is in the axilla, below the folds of the breast, along the chin, behind the ears, or in between the groin, in between two thighs, in the loins, I mean, kamar jo bolte hai. So wherever there are tires of the body. So she had this skin problems there. So I only knew one thing, that Graphites is good, for skin problems, eruptions in the folds of the skin or in the bends or folds of the skin. So I gave her blindly. I gave her Graphites 30, and then next day or after 2 days, she was supposed to leave for California, United States, and she went. So when she came back, she invited me and Sherry for a dinner again. So I was quite delighted because she was an excellent cook, and being an excellent cook, I was looking forward for uh, one more meeting with her and having a lovely dinner with her. So I went quite eagerly. So she started telling me her story. She was born in a dictator's family. Her grandfather was a dictator of Peru. Peru is a country in South America. So her grandfather was dictator of Peru, and her mother's grandfather was dictator of Chile. So she came from this dictator's family, and dictators can be very ruthless. They are like kings, they are like monarchs. So dictators are like kings of the country. So they had a palatial house, and she was brought up in this palatial house. Now this in this palatial house, whenever she used to move around, and there used to be servants running behind her, Senorita, 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 and then she used to be in her own world, singing oh, and that typical high pitch singing. Now they म्हणतात की काय काय लोकांना नाचायचं अंग असतं. Where music is going on, you'll see some Negroes. If you go to the African countries, some this Negroes, whenever there's a music going on, they start immediately moving. So त्यांना नाचायचं अंग आहे. तसं some people have music song. Wherever there is someone singing, ये डबा लेके वो टक 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 बजाते हैं. And some people have गाणं म्हणायचं अंग. They just keep on humming. So they keep on singing. So he तिला तसं this Carmen Perito, तिला हे गाण्याचं म्युझिकचं अंग होतं. She was inborn in her, and she used to hum. She used to keep on humming. She used to keep on singing, and she used to move on the palatial house, and where she became such a good sopran. Now, what is a sopran? Sopranos are the ladies who sing at a very high pitch. If you have seen this movie called Dil Wale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, there you will find a sopran singing at a very high pitch. So she used to sing at a very high pitch, and such a high pitch that the piano keys used to be finished. That's such a high pitch she used to sing. And then that you must have seen in front of the huge orchestras and concerts in operas. They they keep on singing opera singers. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Opera singers. So they sing at a very high pitch and beautiful. They have a beautiful pitch, the high pitch sound. So here, well, we don't have that type of music here anyway. So here, she could sing in couple of languages because her family background was very rich. So she started singing in, of course, Spanish was a mother tongue, then English, of course, which is again almost international language. Then she could sing in French, Italian, German. I mean, you name the language and she could sing in that. So she was in such a demand. She was one of the finest sopranos of the world. She became finest sopranos of the world, and so much so that she sang for the Queen of England, the President of the United States. In fact, the mafias in in America, the Sicilians, the mafias who have controlled the underworld kingdom of America, they used to send a charter flight for her whenever she was in demand. They used to send a charter flight, and she was flown to America for their wedding ceremonies, their family functions. She used to sing for them. So she was in such a demand. So sopranos, like very few people are as blessed as Lata Mangeshkar and Asha Bhosle. Remember, my dear friends, because both this night they are Gandharva Kanya, I call them. Unlike the sopranos, they lose their pitch after some time. So at the age of 55, she almost lost her pitch, Here, her grandfather was no more a dictator. The family was assassinated, and she had run away to Switzerland because Switzerland, remember, my dear friends, Switzerland is a neutral country. So she was staying in Switzerland and giving some small concerts. She was somehow managing. So because when she was in a prime, whatever money she had really spent it lavishly. And then she didn't have any money, and she was brought up in such a grand fashion. Didn't have any money. So then one day she was sitting and she didn't have money, and she was thinking who is going to call her for a program because she had lost the singing charm. That that pitch was no more there, but she could sing, but not at that pitch. So here one day there was a knock on the when the bell was rung in the afternoon, and one frail old man, say 60 years old, and she was 55, he was standing in the door. So when she said yes, he said, "Well, I am the president of the judges of Basel. Basel is a city in Switzerland. So I am as president of the judges of Basel, and we have a function in the bar room. Can you please come and sing?" She said, "Okay, fine. These are my fees." He said, "That is not a problem." So she went, she gave a performance, and this was a thin old man who was also a spinster, not married. Carmen also never got married because when she was in a prime, she was really in a prime. So she never thought of getting married. She was more of a career woman. So this both of them did become friends. And one day this fine old man, this judge, he proposed Carmen. He proposed Carmen. He said, "Carmen, I think we should get married." Carmen was, I mean, quite excited. At the age of 55, someone was proposing her, and she was quite excited because she has lost the charm of getting married also. So, but President of Judges proposing her, and then the date was set, and she whatever money she had some meager uh, amounts, very less amount because she had lost. I mean, whatever the glory she had lost the glory, and she started doing some small shopping here and there. And then one day she realized that she doesn't have a brand new nightie because the first night is the most important night, she thought, after the wedding. And how can she go into the arms of her husband with an old nightie? So she started thinking that she went to the Basel Freistrasse. Strasse is Frei is free, Frei and Strasse is a street. So she went to in Basel Freistrasse, and she went around. This is a shopping area of Basel. So she went up and down, up and down, up and down, three, four times. So everywhere she went, one thing is they didn't have a nighty or negligee of her size, and secondly, the ones which were of her size were too expensive, and she was carrying around 100 francs in her pocket. That's all she had. She didn't have any money. So she went, she was quite depressed. And next day was a wedding, and she sat at the Marktplatz. There was a place called Marktplatz. So she sat at the tram terminal, and she started weeping profusely. She wept. That time she had lost her father, and she wept profusely, and she prayed to her father, "Father, please help me in this because I don't have money and I can't borrow money from my uh, future husband. I mean, who is going to be my husband? How can I tell him I want to buy some nightie? Please give me some money." And she wept, profusely wept, and she remembered her father. She prayed to her father, and she sort of giving us small last try. So while she walking in the Strasse, I mean, Price Strasse, she came across a boutique. Now, boutiques are very expensive, and Switzerland, they are more expensive because Swiss is it's a very expensive country. So she saw a beautiful nighty negligee in the uh, display cabinet. She was weaving it all the way here and there, moving there, but she knew that she couldn't afford it. 100 francs for was too much. I mean, too less for that negligee. in our in the boutique. So the sales girl who was watching her from inside saw that she was been admiring that lady, and she called her in. She said, "Why don't you come in? Come." No, she said, "I'm just appreciating it." No, please come in and try it. She says, "Well, I may not be able to afford it." She said, "Please try it. I'm telling you, please try it. No, no problem. You try it." So she tried, and it fitted her beautiful. It just fitted her lovely, and she was quite embarrassed while giving back. She said, "Well, I won't be able to afford it." She said, "No, it's for a sell. It's in sell the price. It's only 80 francs." And again, she wept profusely. She started pitifully weeping, and then she thanked her father. She said that negligee was sent by her father so that she can place herself in the arms of her husband in a new negligee. So she thanked her father, and then she caught my hands, and she said, "Ravi, the day you gave me the medicines, my eruptions have almost vanished. And I prayed to my mother that find me a doctor who is going to cure me, and you are the person who has cured me. So every week you are supposed to come here and have food, Spanish food of your choice, Spanish, Italian, you name the food, and I'm going to make for you, and you're a lovely doctor." So that's what I'm saying. See, this is again an accidental case, but the symptom was where there was, as I told you, in the folds of the skin, in the folds of the skin, or in the bends of the joints. This is a bend of the joint. This is a bend of the joint. So then this is the bend of the neck, the bend of the ears, or in the under the breast. So here, all this, these are bends. These are the folds of the skin, and graphite has got a direct connection with the folds of the skin. And my dear friends, here we go again to the mentals now. Now, Alan's keynote rightfully mentions, because I had never noticed this dialogue of Alan's when I was in a college. This is that what pulsatilla is at puberty, graphite is at climax. What he says, what pulsatilla is at puberty, graphite is at climax. But his pulsatilla is full of life. She is a dream flower. She's a wind flower. Oh, she's always singing. She's always in her own world. She's very always in a very gay spirit. She's very happy. She's uh, she's full of music. She's उसको अगर पकड़ लिया तो मुरझा जाएगी. And what pulsatilla is at puberty, graphite is at climax. Same personality graphite is at. She's also full of music. She's full of life. What Karaman was. And but remember one thing, graphites are obese. They are obese people. Pulsatilla may be obese, may not be obese, because Pulsatilla does not have that strong trend of obesity. It can be obese also, but both these conditions, when you see Pulsatilla and Graphites, Pulsatilla is at puberty. So there are a lot of hormonal changes which are taking place. Suddenly कन्या से औरत बनती है वो ड्यूरिंग प्यूबर्टी, और कन्या से औरत बनती है. सडनली उसको लज्जा उत्पन्न होती है उसमें. जो अपने पिताजी के कंधों पर, अपने पिताजी की गोद में जाके बैठती थी, वही बच्ची अपने माँ के पास जाती है, वो पिताजी की गोद में नहीं बैठती, बिकॉज शी उसमें लज्जा हो जाती है. उसको लज्जा आने के बाद शी डजंट वांट टू सिट in the laps of her father, because she knows she can become a mother, because her there are a lot of hormonal changes which are taking place in pulsatilla. And same thing happens in graphites during climax. Graphite is also, there's a lot of hormonal changes, and there can be mood swings also, like pulsatilla. But here she can never become a mother again, because she reached a climatic stage, and here the monsoons are going to stop. Sorry, the menses are going to stop, and because the menses are going to stop, here again there are a lot of hormonal changes. That's why I always say a woman goes through three stages. Woman goes through three stages. First, I always say the first stage is Kanya, second stage is Aurat, and third stage is Granny. Straightway she becomes a granny, because she can no more bear children, she becomes a granny. See here, there's drastic changes which are taking place in a woman, where for a man they are very gradual changes, but for a woman, there are certain drastic changes. So here, graphite is, when you talk about graphite is, you see that she used to weep whenever she used to remember her mother, her father. She used to pray to her father, she used to pray to her mother. So they are very sensitive. They weep easily, and they narrate the symptoms while weeping. So all these things are very similar to Pulsatilla, and they are full of music again. Here, she was a typical graphitist because I hadn't realized the mentals of Carmen that time, of course, because I only considered the physicals and gave her graphitist just for the name's sake, because she asked me, if you're a homeopath, can you give me something? So I gave her graphitist. But then it was a perfect fit, and uh, she really got well with it. And I had a lovely lunch. I mean, a lovely dinner every week. I used to have a lovely dinner every week. And then, of course, Sherry gave me also a haircut, and that was one of the finest haircuts I ever had in my life. Anyway, so here what I'm saying is the graphite is weeping disposition, very sensitive, highly emotional, and these things happen during climactic stage, not at the puberty stage. These are not symptoms. I mean, the symptoms seen in pulsatile and puberty are seen in graphitis in climactic stage. Then another good feature of graphitis, I always feel, is that here there's one something called uh, what we call it, the gastric ulcer and the duodenal ulcer. So when we talk about a gastric ulcer and duodenal ulcer, not necessarily that every time you have to have endoscope and go into the stomach and see the duodenal ulcer or gastric ulcer. By because if you see the school of Dublin, uh, school of Dublin, that is Ireland, there the medical college, till you become MBBS, you are not supposed to see a single urinary record, urine, blood, X-ray, sonography, CT scan, MRI, no report. You are not allowed to see any report. You have to do clinical diagnosis. This is very important in Dublin, and they still observe that. They say clinically you should be very sound. So here, when we talk about clinically very sound, it is not necessary that every time you have to do a host of diagnosis to come to a conclusion. If you are clinically sound, you can do it by only by only uh, with symptomatology. So when we talk about gastric ulcer, there's very important symptom is worse by eating. Worse by eating, so he avoids eating. Gastric ulcer is worse by eating. That's why he avoids eating. There's a heartburn after eating. Heartburn. It comes till the burn comes till here. There's a heartburn after eating. It is a gastric ulcer. Worse by eating and better by fasting. So gastric ulcer patient will always lose weight, and there's a pain in the area of the stomach, in pinpointed pain. So I always say gastric ulcer is a typical remedy for gastric ulcer is kalibai. Kalibai is pinpointed pain, and gastric ulcer is also punched out ulcer, round punched out ulcer. So kalibai will suit him much better. And exactly opposite is duodenal ulcer. You will find duodenal ulcer patients, if they don't eat, they have pain. They're better by eating. So you'll find duodenal ulcer patients, even in the house, who keep on opening the refrigerator in the night to try to put in some mouthfuls. So whenever they eat something, they feel better. If they starve, if they're hungry, the pain is worse and better by eating. So exactly opposite of gastric ulcer is duodenal ulcer, and in duodenal ulcer, the patient puts on weight. So now you know the answer. Graphite is worse by fasting, better by eating, and graphite is putting on weight. So duodenal ulcer patients will always put on weight, whereas gastric ulcer patients will always lose weight. So that's very important in duodenal ulcer and gastric ulcer. So here you see the duodenal ulcer patients are, they tend to become obese. So most of the duodenal ulcer patients, they are obese. They feel better by eating and worse by fasting. The gastric ulcer patients, there's a lot of emaciation because if they eat, there's a pain, so they avoid eating. So here it's a classic difference of gastric ulcer and duodenal ulcer, where clinically, if you can diagnose it, nothing like it, of course. And one more thing, which is a very important thing, no one says that he doesn't like sweet. India is a country where everyone is very fond of sweet. That's why we have so many sweet marts. Every corner in Mumbai, Pune, Kolhapur, एक place go to and Delhi, Agra, Indore. Indore to Sarafi Bazaar is famous for Indori sweets, then Bengali mithais and all that. Gujarat is full of sweets. Rajasthan is full of sweets. So here, uh, Malpoha, Rabdi and all that in Rajasthan. So here, what I'm telling you is, sweets, we are crazy about sweets. But Graphites patient says there's an aversion for sweet, which is again a quite marking symptom where we can really think of Graphites whenever he says there's an aversion for sweet. It's a very rare symptom, my dear friends, because sweet desire for sweet is a very common symptom I feel in India, because बचपन से हम गुल खाते आए हैं, शक्कर खाते आए हैं, मिठाई खाते आए हैं. Chocolates, so of course, chocolates is more of a Western style, but still a lot of people who are very fond of chocolates. But Graphites has got marked aversion for sweet. There is no desire for sweet at all, and the stools, the stools are always hard and they are sticky, hard and sticky. They are coated, they are always coated with slime or mucus coated stools, hard and sticky stools, where again Graphites is a constipated patient, because of this hard stools he has to strain a lot during stools, and that's why it can give rise to piles, or they can be because of sometimes they can be uh, moisture while passing gas. They can be moisture while passing gas in Graphites. And Graphites is another remedy which is a very classic symptom where there are cracks in the anus. The cracks in the anus. Now, anus is also a fold, and cracks in the anus. So, what we call fissures. The anal fissures, Graphites is a remedy for anal fissures. So, here one more, this is a very classic symptom of Graphites. And the skin, of course, he scratches till it's raw, scratching till it's raw, and we have uh, and discharge. There's also a discharge of as a I mean, slightly sticky honey-like discharge from the skin. So it can be anywhere, not necessarily on the skin. Wherever there's a discharge after scratching, or moistness of the eruptions eruptions on the skin, any eruption on the skin, better by scratching, better by uh, discharge, discharge is sticky. This discharge is honey-like sticky, or the after scratching, if it becomes moist, if the eruptions become moist, then also we think of Graphites. So Graphites is having a vast number of symptoms, of course, but I'm trying to make Graphites as simple as possible for you to understand, and I feel that you should be able to prescribe Graphites on this basis. And I'm opening up the windows. If you have any questions, you're you're free to. Hello.
Hello,
Yes, please.
sir, Shraddha here. So I had a small doubt. So actually, there is, so is there a sensitivity to noise in graphitis?
Sorry. Can you repeat the question, please? Can you repeat the question, please?
Noise in graphitis?
Sorry, I can't hear. It's not clear.
Hello,
Ah,
hello.
yeah.
So can you hear? So can you hear me now? So I
I
just wanted to know, is there sensitivity to noise in graphitis?
sensitive noise in gravel. See, basically, what symptoms you have in pulsatilla, same symptoms can be seen in graphitis. What symptoms you have
Okay, sir.
all symptoms can be seen in graphitis. That's why what Alan says, what possible is at puberty, graphitis at climatrix. So there are not nothing specific. Only graphitis having and no other remedies having. There is most of them have got host. I mean, lot of similarity in the mental symptoms, except for the
Okay, sir.
age related. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, I have a patient. She is 4-year-old girl, and she is having that molluscum contagiosum.
Hmm.
So and she is very sensitive to noise. I
Hmm.
mean, any loud noise she gets sensitive, but she likes music, dancing.
Huh.
So can we think of graphitis for her?
If there is skin problem and she's got aversion for sweet, that is again now in children, sweet desires for sweet is a very common symptom, but aversion for sweet is a rare symptom.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay. Okay, sir. Okay.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, sir. Bye. Thank you, sir.
Any other
Thank you, sir.
question? Any other question?
And it was a beautiful story, sir. It will help us to remember graphitis very nicely.
Good, good. You could enjoy that story.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I'm closing the lecture. Okay, is it fine?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye.